Hey guys, in this video I'll be covering some tools you can use to make your Sorceress gameplay more fluid by breaking down some key components into several chapters. Midnight Stinger can be performed by pressing shift and left mouse button at the same time. It moves your character a short distance forward and can cancel most amulet and scythe skills. It applies stiffness on hit and has no super armor or forward guard. It's mostly used to transition back into amulet form from scythe and to cancel out of certain skills. It can also be used to cover small portions of ground. Another skill you can use while in amulet form to get around is Dark Flame. To execute Dark Flame, press S and left mouse button at the same time, immediately followed by a right mouse button. Dark Flame requires no stamina to use and has forward guard on and off cooldown. Rebuilding Darkness is the backwards variant of Darkness Release and is executed by pressing S and F at the same time. It's mainly used when you are already safe but wish to put distance between you and your opponents. Night Crow is the Sorceress's main positioning tool in fights. To perform Night Crow, you press Shift, A, S, or D, or WW. Night Crow has a high stamina cost, but it has full invincibility while the skill is active, and it can go in any direction. It also can cancel many skills that will be shown later in the video. To make a Ford's Night Crow easier, instead of pressing WW, you can assign a key to those functions in your settings by going to Escape, Settings, Input, and then assign key WW. Night Crow is available to use in scythe form as well, but has a 2-second cooldown added. Rushing Crow can be used by pressing W and right mouse button while you're in your amulet form. The skill is invincible while it's active and costs no stamina to use. Shadow Leap is a scythe only move that you can execute by pressing W and F at the same time. The skill is invincible while it's active, costs no stamina, and gives 15% evasion for 5 seconds. Now that we've went over each of the popular movement skills, it's time to showcase what they can do. In Chapter 2, I'll be going over how you can transition into Scythe mode or Amulet mode using various skills or key combinations. First off, I just wanted to show you the basic transitions using the C button. Anytime you swap into Scythe from Amulet, you always get a forward guard. Using these transitions can be detrimental if you're fighting someone because they pause your character and don't allow for any movement. The only transition out of this group that gets much use is S plus C because it gives you block immediately after you swap into Scythe mode. The main thing you need to look for when swapping into Scythe mode is whether your scythe does an upward slash or a sideways slash. I'll use forward Night Crow to demonstrate an upward slash scythe swap, and I'll use sideways Night Crow to demonstrate a sideways slash scythe swap. The reason you differentiate the two is because an upward slash transition can be cancelled by a violation immediately afterwards. A sideways slash transition has to be block cancelled before you can move into violation. And by block cancel I mean the S plus C transition that was discussed earlier. Here I'll show some of the skills that allow for an upward slash scythe swap that allow you to cancel into an instant violation. First up we have forward Night Crow as well as back Night Crow. Next up we have Midnight Stinger, which also allows for an upward slash scythe swap. You can also just do a sprinting forwards attack while in amulet form to swap into Scythe instantly into Violation. Lastly, using our Q buff and then swapping into Scythe gives us an upward slash motion. The most popular ways to transition into a block stance with Scythe is just using it from a standing position, or by using it after a sideways Nightcrow. You can also cancel certain skills with it, but we'll go over that in the next section. As far as transitioning back into amulet form from Scythe, you pretty much have to rely on Midnight Stinger or Bloody Calamity. In this section I'll be talking about some of the more popular cancels that the Sorceress has. We've already went over the skills that can cancel other abilities, but I'll give a short review. Midnight Stinger can cancel most amulet and slide skills. Nightcrow can also cancel most amulet and slide skills. Rushing Crow can cancel amulet skills but not slide skills. Perhaps one of the most basic cancels is using Imminent Doom after casting Dream of Doom by pressing left mouse button. You'll notice that your character is slightly pushed backwards when you use Dream of Doom or Imminent Doom. You can avoid this by cancelling the skill with Midnight Stinger, Rushing Crow, or Nightcrow. Another useful tool is cancelling the startup animation of Shadow Eruption. This is usually done by performing a sideways Nightcrow or a backwards Nightcrow. Shadow Eruption is usually cancelled afterwards as well. One skill I haven't really covered so far is Crow Flare. It can cancel most amulet skills and also has a follow-up skill called Beat Kick, which reduces evasion. Grim Reaper's Judgment can be charged by holding space for more damage or delayed by using Nightcrow. However, the animation after the slash can leave you open to attacks, so it's best to cancel it. Rushing Crow is also usually cancelled because of its drawn out animation. Cancelling the startup animation of some skills can be useful as well. In Scythe mode you can do an instant third hit of turn backslash if you hit S and right mouse button after Nightcrow. You can also do an instant Bloody Calamity if you hold space or hit space immediately after a Nightcrow. The skill Dead Hunt can be cancelled anytime by hitting right mouse button in order to block, and since you can block it can lead into Violation. I wanted to give Violation its own subsection because it's such an essential part to playing Sorceress. There's three main things you need to know about Violation. The first is that the animation can be sped up, the second is that it can be cancelled by pressing left mouse button, and the third is that it can be extended by using 10 fragments. To cover the first point of speeding up Violation, I'll show an example of a regular Violation. To speed up Violation, all you have to do is press right mouse button prior to doing Violation or do an upward slash. An example of using an upward slash to speed up Violation would be Shadow Leap into left mouse button into Violation. To stop Violation early or to stay in place completely, you can press the left mouse button to do a downward slash. The last point was to spend 10 fragments of darkness in order to increase the time of Violation. You can do this by pressing the left mouse button while the skill is active. This can be useful for positioning and also for damage. When you add all three together, it can look something like this. Now that we've covered how to use popular cancels in Violation, I'll showcase some example combos. This next section is going to be fairly short because I just want to go over some of the buffs you can get as a sorceress from using skills as well as add-ons. Flow of Darkness 2 will give you plus 15% evasion for 10 seconds. Eruption of Guilt, which is the last skill in the Midnight Stinger tree, will give you plus 40% critical hit rate for 10 seconds. Shield of Darkness 3 will give you plus 13 DP for 5 minutes. Shards of Darkness 3 can be used to get 20 AP for 20 seconds if you use 30 fragments, and can be instantly recovered by using Dark Trade 3. The Sorceress's Awakening buff Grim Reaper gives 100% crit rate, plus 30% resistances, plus 35% ignore resistances, plus 15% evasion for 30 seconds, as well as 30 fragments. For your skill add-ons, visit a skill instructor and pick 3 non-awakening skills and up to 3 awakening skills, depending on your level. Each skill has separate add-ons to choose from, so be sure to look through them and find the ones that suit you. I personally prefer casting speed and damage over time effects, but there are many viable options depending on your playstyle. There are a few more skills that I didn't mention earlier in the buff section that you can use in order to get an advantage. Scattering Shadow will give you plus 6 magic accuracy for 10 seconds upon use. Sinister Shadow will give you plus 30% critical hit rate for 10 seconds upon use. Soul Harvest in the Scythe skill tree will give you plus 24% crit rate for 10 seconds upon use. And Flow Requiem in the Scythe skill tree will give you 100% crit rate for 5 seconds upon use. In Chapter 5, I'll be giving an overview on armor and CC properties of some of Sorceress's most popular skills. The following skills will give you Forward Guard, which blocks frontal attacks and CC effects, but you can still be hit from behind. Dark Flame's Forward Guard works on and off cooldown. Transitioning with C also works with any of the upward slash motions we talked about before. Violation's Forward Guard only works when the skill is not on cooldown. Carson's Protection also works when you do the S plus C Scythe transition and when you're walking backwards in Scythe mode. These skills will give you super armor, which means you're immune to CC other than grapples and you'll take less damage. Only the Scythe version of Russian Crow will give you super armor. Carson's Nightmare gives you super armor for the duration of the cast. Grim Reaper's Judgment provides super armor while you're charging the skill but not after the slash. And finally, these skills give you full invincibility, which means you take no damage and immune to all forms of CC, including grapple. Amulet and Scythe forms of Nightcrow are both invincible. The follow-up skill to Nightcrow, Storm Crow, is also invincible. Shadow Leap is invincible for the duration of the cast. Nightmare and its flow skill, Requiem, are both invincible after the initial startup. And finally, here's a list of CC effects for the skills we've covered. Going into detail what each effect does would require its own separate guide, so I won't do that here. And that about wraps up this guide. I hope I've helped you and that you've learned something in the process, and if you'd like to see more videos in the future, be sure to subscribe to this channel or come say hi to me on my stream. Thanks for watching.